Hi, welcome to Career Conversations. I'm Christine from the Easton Library.
And I'm Mary Beth.
And today we're talking to Ron Wiklow. Hi, Ron, how are you?
Hi, great, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. So Ron is a project leader in operations at ASML in Wilton. And what they do there is they design and manufacture tools that make computer chips. So almost all of the chips in all of our devices, like phones and laptops and everything, are made at your facility, ASML. So that's really amazing.
Yes,
No, they're not
that
made at your facility. They're made with tools that you make, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. Yeah, we make the tools and we sell those tools to people like Samsung in Korea or TSMC in Taiwan or Intel and other companies here in the United States who make the chips.
wow. So your facility, what kind of like are the tools? I'm so interested in just what the tools are. Do you have machines that make the tools, or are there people? What's involved?
We have a lot of people in Wilton who we have about 2,000 people now in Wilton who are working on these machines.
Wow.
About half of those people are engineers and the rest are technicians or support people. A lot of people working hands-on on the floor. So there's a lot of machinery working, but a lot of people working hands-on on this stuff also. And then the tools that we build, we call them tools, but they're the machines that make the computer chips are very, very highly automated. They run in these very pristine clean rooms, and these companies we sell them to will have dozens and dozens of these things working all day long, every day, 365 days a year, printing computer chips.
Wow. This is something I just never thought of. I mean, here we are, I'm using a laptop. My phone is under the desk here. And I know the chips are in there. I just never thought about like the tools that were used to manufacture them, to create them. So cool.
Yeah, it's super interesting. Ron, what's your background in? Is that how did you get started in this like project managing for tool making for technology?
Well, I started, I got an engineering degree in optics from the University of Rochester. I went to the University of Rochester. I grew up in upstate New York, and I was interested in technology things, and Rochester seemed like a natural school to go to. And when I got there, they had this really cool program in optics, which I'd never heard of or thought of before. But at the time, with Rochester being the home of Kodak and Bosch and Lohm and Xerox and these companies, optics had an unusual optical engineering program. And so I gravitated toward that, got my degree in optical engineering, and then I moved down here to Connecticut because PerkinElmer was probably the largest optics company in the United States at the time. It was doing all sorts of really cool stuff. And I got a job at PerkinElmer, and I've worked in that field with a couple of different moves through the course of the years. I started at PerkinElmer working on, they were working on the Hubble Space Telescope at the time. So I was working on making measurements on the reflectivity of the mirror and things like that. And that got me more involved in optical manufacturing and especially the coatings that go on optical surfaces. And that became sort of my specialty. And then over the years, I moved from manufacturing organization to the design organization to, I worked for supply chain management for a while, which means working with our suppliers around North America to bring in the material that we needed to make things. And eventually into this this project leadership role, where this team that I work on is responsible for manufacturing one particular component that goes into the machine, and I'm responsible to make sure that we make enough of them and that they're that they're good quality when they get to our customer and that sort of thing.
So is optics involved in what you're doing right now?
So there are a lot of optics in these machines that make the computer chips. And those optics come from a lot of different places all over the world. There's a big component of the machine that comes from our partner, Carl Zeiss in Germany. We buy optics from other people. We manufacture some optics here in Wilton as well. and we put together a lot of optical assemblies in Wilton. So the particular component that I'm working on right now is not an optical component, but we do a lot of optical assemblies in Wilton. We do a lot of onboard measurement systems, and in a lot of cases for really precise measurements, those measurements rely on optical systems because the wavelength of light is sort of the standard for measurement. And so if you're measuring something with a wavelength of light, you can measure something very, very small.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like it. I can't tell you, I love it because there's some really fascinating stuff. If you're interested in technology, it's fascinating. And there are a lot of really smart people and it's just fun to work with them.
Yeah. So would you say that's your favorite part of your job, the current job, or what do you think is your favorite part of that?
Yeah, that's definitely my favorite part of it. That it's really such a high level of technology. When people describe to you what they're doing and the level of detail that they're concerned about, it's unimaginable sometimes. And then those people are they're, as I said, really bright people. And the especially exciting thing I think for me now is when I started at PerkinElmer, it was a very male driven field. It was a lot of, it was very monochromatic. And the environment at ASML now is very, very, very diverse, and it makes it really interesting. There are people from all over the world, men and women who've gone to university in all sorts of different places all over the world in a bunch of different fields. So it's really, it's a really exciting place.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love that.
Yeah,
Wow.
It sounds like a great place.
Now,
go ahead, Mary Beth.
I don't want to jump on what you were going to say. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So would you recommend a similar career to like high school students today that are watching?
Yeah, I absolutely would. And not particularly what I do specifically, but technology fields in general. I don't think when I started, there was a really high luster on, I felt, at least for me, on science and technology fields, and there was a big sort of national push toward that sort of thing with developments at NASA, and you'd hear about these kinds of things, and I think there's sort of a cachet, at least that appearance these days, that there's a huge magnetic draw to entertainment fields and sports and things like that, and I think there are very, very few people who actually make a significant living doing that. And I think the technology fields are really, really rewarding. And as I said, you get to work with a lot of interesting people. And if it's something that you're interested in, if you're the kind of person who looks at something and said, gee, I wonder why I did that, or I wonder how it works, or then I think there are a lot of rewards in it, a lot of interesting things to do.
Yeah. And I think there's a push now, and maybe, you're feeling it even just working with this, it's a global experience for you now, right? You've got people from all over the world that you've worked with, that there is a big focus now on STEM or STEAM, for the science, technology, the engineering, arts, and math. So yes, it's kind of, we're seeing that, I hope that change, as you were saying, to broaden what is desirable from arts, entertainment, and sports to include the science and STEM fields and technology in particular.
There certainly is. Yeah. And hopefully that will gain momentum.
Yes, we hope so. We would love that. So what else do we have, Christine? Let me see.
Well, one thing I was just going to say is that I think that kids now, they're such digital natives, and they enjoy like tinkering and figuring out how things work. And they sort of get technology, I think, in a very different way than previous generations did. So I think there is that aspect to it that is a little you know, it is as exciting in some ways as like sports or acting or whatever, because it's cool still. You know what I
It is.
mean?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
agree.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's true, and I see that too in a lot of the fresh young engineers who we hire into the organization. They come in with this kind of native skill set that to me is amazing in the sort of the language of the technology and the tools of the technology when it comes to interfacing with computers, getting computers to do things, and working with software and stuff like that. And they'll do things like with big data, you know, and I was like, how do you do that? But then a lot of times also when it comes to actually like saying, how does something work hands-on and going onto the manufacturing floor and touching hardware, it's like, oh no, I didn't even think to do that. You know, it's a completely different sort of mindset and skill set.
Right. Wow. That's so interesting. Um, is there any other job that you ever, or any other, I guess, well, let's backtrack. When you were younger, were you interested in this field really young, you know, when you were in like an elementary school going into middle school? Was this your focus even then, or was it more as you got into high school and college?
I loved sciencey stuff when I was a kid. You know, I sort of had a natural aptitude for math and science in elementary school, and so you sort of gravitate to what people tell you you're good at, you know. But also it was the space age. You know, rockets were going up and stuff like that on TV. Everything would stop at school, and we'd all go to the cafeteria to watch, you know, an Apollo launch on TV, and so that was.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just frozen.
That was tremendously exciting, sort of natural for me. I mean, there are a lot of other things, you know, looking back on it, you could say, oh, that would have been a really interesting path too. My uncle was an architect and he did fascinating things, and that always really excited me too. And you know, now as I've grown and gotten to meet more people, then I see how much bigger the world is and how many other things exist, and there are a lot of cool things. My wife is a painter. I mean, I have no capability for that whatsoever, but to see what people in artistic fields do, it's like, that's pretty cool too. That, you know,
Absolutely.
so yeah, yeah, no, I mean, but for me personally, I was always drawn toward towards some sort of hands-on technology work.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that.
But the optics part of it,
that was the
is just kind of a funny coincidence.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I went to the University of Rochester on the basis of whatever decision making an 18-year-old does about what a college should be like.
Right.
And I got there and I found optics. It was completely happenstance. And if that hadn't happened, I'd be in some completely different place right now. So it led me to an interesting path.
Yeah.
Life is interesting that way.
Yes. It sure is.
Yeah. You make some choice you make, and some just sort of happen to you, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Ron, this was so interesting. Thank you for talking with us.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Oh,
I learned
my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks. It was really fun.
Oh, great.
All right, take care.